Hey friends, hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I am so excited for the reason that we're here together. I have a friend named Robin Steele. He's a pastor of PromiseLand Church and in Texas, where I live as well. And he had a book come out just a few months ago called How to Be Made Whole. And it's incredible. It's so incredible that I endorsed it on the back. So I think every single one of you should pick it up. But I wanted to give y'all a chance to hear from him, hear his incredible story, his heart for people and for people to be made whole. And so he's going to share a little bit about that with us. But before we get started, I want to give y'all a chance to have this book. So I'm going to give away my personal copy of How to Be Made Whole. It's actually signed by you, Robin. So that's really fun. And so share this post and I will enter your name into a drawing and I will announce that later this week and ship this book out. But yeah, welcome, Robin. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for endorsing the book. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited. It's such an incredible book, and I feel like it's a question that everybody is asking, or if they're not asking it, their soul is searching for it. You know,
Yeah,
how are we made whole?
yeah,
And so I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about the book, a little bit about your story, your daughter, the shocking news that kind of took your life on this trajectory that you didn't
yeah,
expect, but that God has used in incredible ways. So
yeah,
I'll let you take the floor and just share your heart with us.
yeah. Well, I think that some people are literally asking that question, but I think almost everybody is asking it subconsciously,
Mhm.
and especially with the past, 12 months of so much happening in the world, and just doing literally a deep dive down below the surface of our life and figuring out what part of us is missing, and um, I found that most people are trying to fix certain parts of their life. They're like trying to fix their marriage or their health or their finances or, fix other people in their life, and thinking that once they fix those pieces, that will finally bring them the wholeness, or the peace, really is another word for it, just thorough peace. And the problem is, we'll fix one part of our life and then something else will break, so then we're chasing after that and then this and that. And so it was our personal story with our daughter that really, really helped my wife and I find the wholeness from God, really. And we were going along our marriage, just so happy. We had a great 2 years into our marriage, and she got pregnant. We're so excited about that. And my wife, she's very holistic, very natural, so she wanted a home birth. And so we were all geared up to have the baby at home. And man, I was nervous about that. And I was like, hey, let's just go get a sonogram. Let's just make sure that everything is, healthy and normal. So we were poor. I was a children's pastor and was not making hardly any money. So we found out they had free sonograms at the local community college here in Austin. So that's where we went, and we got there. They started doing the sonogram, and the attendants just kept, the students just kept walking in and out and not saying anything. And for like 45 minutes, this went on. And finally, the supervising nurse came in and said, hey, we're not seeing something we should. We want to send you to a specialist, and you need to go today.
Mm.
And so, wow, this was like, it was big deal, so we're going to this specialist here in Austin, and honestly, we thought, you know what, they probably messed up. They probably didn't know what they're doing. And we'll go to the specialist and he'll just say everything's fine.
Mhm.
So we go and have another sonogram there, and his attendants, same thing, looking. Finally, the doctor comes in, he looks, and he says this just, you know, stunning statement that the thing that these nurses and students could not see is your baby's brain. And he pointed up on the screen and said, this is her head, and you see this dark gray area, that's fluid, that's where the brain should be, but it's just fluid, it's just like a black void. And if you look really closely, you'll see a little tissue around the edge of her skull, that's her brain. And so she has profound hydrocephalus. And he said, let's go back to my office. And that was a long walk. We go back to his private office, and I was stunned, and I literally pinched myself and thought, I'm dreaming. Like, this is not real. Let's go back. You messed up. Let's start over. I mean, I was just literally in shock. And at that point, he says it's a girl. He told us the gender, and then he gave us two options. And he said the first option is you can choose to terminate the pregnancy. And man, it makes me emotional just thinking about it. But we were 30 weeks along. And he said, it's not, you can't do it here in Texas at 30 weeks, but you can go to Kansas. This was in 2001. So my wife and I thought about it for seconds, and he was like, your wife's fine. She has no danger to herself, and um, it took us literally a few seconds, and we're like, that's not the choice that we want to take. And he said, your other option is at about 8 weeks from now, we'll do a scheduled C-section if everything's moving along and you need to do weekly sonogram. So that's what we chose to do. And 8 weeks comes along, and we have the scheduled C-section at 38 weeks. And man, we had just been praying and praying and praying. And like, I come from a very strong prayer culture in my family, very strong belief in God, and just believing that God was going to show up and prove himself in this pregnancy. And that when she was born, that's when this big moment would happen, and she would be normal. And the day comes and the doctor lifts her out of the womb, and we could visibly see that she was not normal. And her head was just very, very large. And so there was this miracle of birth, which is so incredible, and it was amazing. And then there was this heaviness. So they go do another MRI, and at this point, they determined that the condition is even worse than they thought. And they basically gave my daughter 6 months to live. And they said, take her home and enjoy her. And it was just a tough time, of always wondering, okay, if she gets sick, is this when she's going to die? Or, just weeks turned into months, and then months turned into years. And here we are 19 years later, and my daughter's still alive, and she's an incredible young lady. She does have profound special needs, and she requires, basically 24-hour care. She's in a wheelchair. She's unable to speak. She's unable to use her hands or feet. And so on one hand, she's very, very limited in her capacity to do things. But at the same time, she is probably the most whole person that I know, because she has just an incredible joy about her, and a peace and a presence that when you meet her and you come to talk to her, or come up to her chair, or go up to her bed. Like, one of my favorite times is going there in the morning when she wakes up, and she's just smiling. And it's incredible because she's been literally in the same position since we put her to bed, and she can't get out of bed. She can't turn her TV on. She can't feed herself. She can't do anything. And just the idea that she's able to have such peace in the midst of such difficulty is profound, and so it really put my wife and I on a journey of like, there's something here
Yeah.
that is not what the classic American is pursuing. Like,
Mm.
she has peace, and there's so many people that are able to do so much, and have so much money or, fame, whatever. And so that's kind of the whole premise of the book, of how um, God is speaking through our daughter, and how she is teaching us. Like, she's our mentor, really, like, she's the one guiding us on, this is how to live life, and this is how to find wholeness in God, not based on what you can do, but based on what God says about us, so that's really the premise of the book.
That's incredible. You talked about this pinch me moment, like where, and I, as you know, I've had that moment as I sat face to face with my birth mother and found out that I survived her abortion and that I was a twin. And that, I mean, that's exactly how it was for me, was like, pinch me, is this real? I almost felt like I was looking from the outside in, and like there was this movie happening around me, like this can't be real. And what happened is the moment that should have been like me just in the pits, I could have easily just ran out of that room and been angry for the rest of my life. Such a hard moment for sure. In that moment, I just felt God. And that's what I hear you saying, is just that, yeah, this isn't the plan I had for my life. This isn't the plan I had for my daughter's life. Obviously, I would have written a different plan. But that you felt God in that moment, and that he has been with you every step of the way since then, and revealing himself to you in such a wholesome way through your daughter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look at her, and do you have a picture of her, like of your family there? I do on this.
I have one on my phone. I don't know if
Okay.
it'll translate. Let me see.
I have this. Oh, I have this that's in the book.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Perfect.
But I look at her and I just see the handiwork of God. And
Yeah.
there is so much that we can learn from her joy, from her peace, from her wholeness, as you described, because our bodies will fail one day.
Yeah.
But what God says about us never changes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what has it been like? I mean, as you've navigated having this family that maybe looks a little bit different than you expected, or maybe a lot different than what you expected. But what has the journey been like, and what do you feel like you've really learned maybe about God
Yeah.
through your daughter?
Yeah. So, I said that I've been raised in a Christian family my whole life. And so I thought I knew everything about God, and I thought I had it figured out. And I thought I had life figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I ran into this impossible situation, basically, where God, the answer to my prayer was no, or wait. It wasn't until I got into that moment that there was this recalibration of my idea of who God was. And I remember, even after she was born, we still were praying for her to be healed. Like, God can heal her brain. God can make a new brain. And I believe to this moment that he can do that. He just hasn't done it. But there was a time when she was like 4 or 5 years old that I was just exhausted. I was just like, I just couldn't pray anymore for her to be healed.
Mhm.
And I was just so broken. And it was in that moment that I really felt like God spoke to me and said, I love Kennedy. That's her name. That's my daughter's name. I love Kennedy the way she is. And and she's perfect to me. Whew. And I was like, wow, I am praying so hard for her to be different that I'm not loving her for who she is.
Mhm.
And there was so much weight that came off of me, but I was also, there was also a conviction to me thinking like, do I want her healed because that would make my life easier? Or do I want her healed because then people would like her more or
Mhm.
accept her more? And God is saying, I love her and I accept her the way she is. And that was this huge moment for me as a dad with her. But then the bigger picture was that was contagious. Like I thought, man, if God loves her that way, then he loves me that way too. And he loves me before I'm a good pastor, before I'm a good father, before I'm a good husband. And all of a sudden, I had this new perspective of God and really the gospel that I thought, wow, um, he's so good, and his love for me is so strong that that I don't have to perform for him to like me or for him to uh, put me in some sort of place, help me, on and on. So, that was a big thing. I talk about that a lot in the book, about how God's acceptance of us and our position as a child of God is such a big deal. And I really never, I knew all that in my head, but I didn't have it here in my heart until I walked through this situation. And I was just confronted with the gospel, like the good news of this is not about what I can do as a person, but it's what God's already done.
Mhm. And who he says we are, that doesn't change regardless of
Yeah.
circumstance. And that can be such a hard thing for us to believe. And I feel like I, like you, um, truly grasped a little bit, maybe a little bit of what that meant for me in my pit of despair. I feel like that's when God can really reach down and say, you know what, you're worthy.
Yeah.
You are a child of God. You are made perfectly and wonderfully. And I have a plan for you. It's good. It may not look like you expected it to look,
Yeah.
but it's good. And
Oh,
what I found is that in my pit of despair, I learned that not only was God good, but his plan for me was better than I could have ever
yes.
imagined.
Yes.
And I long for that for other people, for them to be
Mhm.
able to know, like we've
Mhm.
found out in our desperate moments,
Mhm.
that we are worthy, that we are loved, that we are forgiven, that we are chosen by him, and that he wants a relationship with us so that he can walk this journey with us, so that he can go before us and reveal himself to us, like you said, in ways that we wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And I just love hearing that. What would you say to the person though who's maybe in that pit of despair? Maybe they're in that uncertain moment in their life where
Mhm.
they're praying for that miracle,
Mhm.
and maybe it hasn't come, maybe it never
Yeah.
will, maybe
Yeah.
like they expect it, like they're
Mhm.
praying for. um what would you say to them, knowing that God's writing their story exactly
Yeah.
how he wants to, and
Yeah.
how he's gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, honestly, in the book, I have a whole chapter on that question, and so thank you for that, throwing that softball to me.
So get the book. That's what he's saying.
And honestly, it's my favorite chapter, but let me tell you a little bit. My wife was still in the hospital herself, recovering from the C-section. And I went into her room. I had just been visiting our daughter in the NICU, and I went into my wife's room. And I had come to this moment where I had accepted that death may be the best option for our daughter. And that was a big moment. I thought I'd really come to this big spiritual moment. And it was a step where I said to my wife, I said, I have two prayers. My first prayer is still that God would heal our daughter. Um, and I want him to heal our daughter. But my second prayer is, if he chooses not to do that, that he would just, take her home and she could dance on streets of gold and, talk and be normal in heaven. And I was okay with that. Like, I thought God was really going to reveal himself by healing her or by taking her home. And I was giving God this A or B option, you know. And that in that moment in my life, I had no idea that God was so good that he would reveal himself in a plan C that was not A or B, and that she would not be healed and she would not die, but she would live disabled for 19 years and still have an incredible life. And my wife and we have two more kids after our daughter. We have two sons. They're now 16 and 14. And so we have a family of five, and we just have a lovely family, and lovely church, lovely friends. And, just like our life is so blessed.
Yeah.
I had no idea that God could be present in such an unanswered prayer. And so I just want to encourage people that, Isaiah says this, and then the New Testament, Paul confirms this, that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind can conceive what God has planned for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so right now, probably your mind cannot wrap itself around this idea of your life being a certain way and being good at the same time. But with God, all things are possible. And if he says no to something, or if he says wait to something, then he's going to give us the grace to make it every single day. So don't give up.
You mentioned just how your hopes for your daughter, your trust in God, and even your prayers have kind of shifted, changed over the years. And I'm just curious, like, for people who are listening who maybe are in a similar place to where you were in the first few years of your daughter's life, and maybe even now as things have shifted for you and your trust for God, and maybe the wording of your prayers, is there something that you pray, whether it be daily or weekly or monthly, with your wife, that a prayer that maybe just postures yourself of yes, I'm hopeful, but I'm truly giving it over to God. Like, I'm truly trusting that his plan is good. Maybe a prayer that's really been healing and helpful for you over the years.
Yeah, I think we just really are trying to make sure that when we pray, we're truly using Jesus's model. He gives us this beautiful model in scripture. We call it the Lord's Prayer, but the beginning of it is, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I think many people, if they pray that specific prayer, or, whatever, they kind of either skip that part, or they just run to give us this day our daily bread, and they're asking for things. But Jesus, he gave us that model on purpose, because what it does is it filters the rest of the prayer. If you start with God's kingdom, God's will, let that happen. Let the kingdom come into my earth, my space, then I start asking for things, then I go to the rest of my prayer, then it really changes what I ask for and how I ask, and like my attitude and my posture. And it's really a prayer of submission and surrender. So I think that we just have to really uh, keep that state of mind of like, it's the Lord's, it's the Lord's kingdom, it's the Lord's will, his way, let it come. And then he ends the prayer the same way, with it's your kingdom, your power, and your glory forever, not ours. So I think my wife and I have definitely needed each other to keep us ourselves accountable along the journey. That's super important to have people in our lives that hold us accountable to that. But um, just praying prayers of surrender, let the will of God come. It's been very important.
I have to imagine that there are people like me who are listening who have a friend or have a family member or have a pastor, who are maybe in that pit of despair, maybe in that uncertain moment, that could really benefit from their church members or their family members or their friends coming alongside them and just encouraging them
Yeah.
in that moment. So is there something that someone said to you or did for your family, or just something that really spoke to you? Because I want to be a good friend. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be
Yeah.
someone that shows up for people who are struggling or questioning or wondering if things are ever going to get better or their prayers are going to be answered.
Yeah.
People that are praying for a miracle, and I want to be that friend that shows up, that encourages. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there is an example, like looking back, of someone who really loved you well
Yeah.
in your moment of confusion and frustration and hurt.
Yeah. I think the best moments, the best conversations that we've had are not people trying to fix things,
Mm-hmm.
or say the right things. They're just people being present
Mm-hmm.
and just saying, we're with you. We're not going anywhere, no matter what this looks like. I even remember a doctor early on, which we had many difficult conversations with doctors over the
Yeah,
years
I would imagine.
that were not faith filled at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember one doctor, when my wife was still pregnant, and was a neurologist, and he said, this is what the prognosis looks like, but we just want you to know we're here for you. We're going to help you through this. And man, it was just so comforting to know that we weren't alone. And I mean, I obviously think that food is a big help. It's a very practical thing to cook a meal for somebody,
Yeah.
um, and just don't ask. Don't say, do you need a meal? Just say, we're bringing a meal.
Choosing one.
Like,
Yeah.
what day? And do you have any food allergies or something like that? Um, so that kind of thing. But, I would just encourage people to not be intimidated by these heavy situations. I mean, I'm sure that's easy for me to say. I'm a pastor. I've been doing this for a long time, but people just want to be loved in a way that's just being present, just knowing that they're not alone, and just a text, a simple email, say, hey, I'm here, I'm with you. If you need something, please let me know. But just that simple uh, connection, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Is there a takeaway that you hope your readers will learn or just take with them after they read your book? I know you've shared so many takeaways already. I'm excited for people to get to read it and to get to journey with you along your life story through this book. But is there one takeaway that you'd like
Yeah.
people
I
to?
mean, obviously, I pray that God's revealed. I pray that they see the beauty of Jesus and the power of Jesus, and that there's this hero's journey that a lot of movies are framed after, and books are written about, where we're all on a journey, we're all going somewhere, and we all face something tough, we all face something difficult, and we all need a mentor. We all need somebody that's going to help us along the way. And I pray that my daughter can be that for people, that she can, in her own silent way, speak to people in her journey, in her life, to help. And basically what she's doing is just pointing people to Jesus, and so that is my prayer, my hope.
I love that. How can people pick up your book?
Well, it's on Amazon, so it's super easy. Go to Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime. It can be delivered. Or we love hanging out with people on social media. You can go to our website, which is meaninful.com. That's a whole nother story that's in our journey, that's in the book, about being meaningful. But mademeaningful.com is our website. You can get our book on the website as well, and connect with us on social media.
And you have a podcast.
Yeah. So my wife and I decided to do a podcast about 6 months ago. And I really love it, because this is a place where people really get to meet my wife. And she is so funny, and she's so talented. And it's a fun conversation. It's very, very real and transparent. We talk about our mess, and our family. So yeah, it's a Made Meaningful podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, everybody check that out. Grab Robin's new book, How to Be Made Whole. And share this, because share this post, because I am going to give one person this book that Robin sent me, and it is so good. Y'all don't want to miss out on this opportunity. Thank you so much for joining us, Robin. It's such an honor just to be able to hear from you, your message, your daughter's life, your family, how you've loved her so well. Even the tears in your eyes today just speak volumes to who you are, to who you have allowed, how you've allowed God to use you, and how you've allowed God to shine through the life of Kennady, your daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
so encouraged and inspired, not only by her life and her joy, but by you and your wife. So thank you for joining us, and just for encouraging all of us and helping us learn how we can be made whole through your new book.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your story, and sharing it, and being bold. I just love being connected. So it's an honor.
Thank you so much. Well, hope everyone has a wonderful week. Thanks for joining us. Pick up Robin's book, share this post, and I will share this book with somebody. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.